My name is Miss Amy, and I work here at the Lexington Main Library. I am thrilled for the first time ever to be bringing virtual to you in your homes, So the Story Goes. This is the 31st year that we are putting on this program. We're proud to be partnering with the town of Lexington, as well as Lexington County's Recreation and Aging Commission. Usually, we do it just up the road at Virginia Hilton Park as an in-person event, but we wanted to find a way to bring it to you in your homes this fall. A couple of things to remember, especially if you've ever been there in person. The stories do get a little bit spookier as they go on. Now, remember, it's all in good fun, and if you get too scared, you can snuggle up with a blanket over your face, and you're gonna be very safe. So, go, grab up all the blankets in your house, grab your family, maybe even build a pillow fort in the living room, and get ready for some spooky stories. So, what we're gonna do is start with me telling you a story. But I need to slip into something a little bit more in keeping with the tone, and we want this to be spooky. Are you ready? I have some spooky earrings, and they are ghosts. And the reason that I'm putting on ghost earrings is because my first story is The Ghost with One Black Eye. So this story starts with a family, maybe just like yours. And it is a Saturday morning, and Mama is making her famous chocolate chip pancakes. So she's over at the stove, hard at work making breakfast. We have Big Brother, we have the middle sister, and we've got the baby. The baby is in the high chair, all strapped in. Now here's the thing that you have to remember. This is very important, and some of you might know this if you've got a baby brother or sister at home. What does a baby act like when the baby's hungry? They cry, and they let you know that they're hungry. So, Mama is making the pancakes, and everyone's just kind of talking, and all of a sudden, the baby from the corner of the room goes, "I want my juice!" and bangs their little fists on the high chair. And so Mama, she doesn't want the pancake batter to burn, so she says to the brother, "Can you please go downstairs into the basement and get a juice bottle for your brother?" And he says, "Okay." So he goes over to the basement door, and he creaks open the door, and he turns on the light switch, click, and he goes down the stairs. And he gets to the bottom, and he crosses the basement. And just as he starts to reach his hand for the refrigerator door, the lights go out. And then he hears a voice from the darkness just behind the refrigerator. "I am the ghost with one black eye." And the brother said, "Ah!" He screamed like a little girl. "Ah!" And he ran upstairs and he ran through the kitchen and he said, "I gotta go do some homework." And Mama said, "Homework? It's 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning." And he says, "I gotta go." And he runs upstairs and he throws the door to his bedroom closed and he gets his blanket and he tosses it up over his head and he sits there and he waits. So now the only people left in the kitchen are Mama, still cooking the pancakes, sister, and the baby. Now the baby doesn't have what? Juice. The baby does not have their juice. Do you think the baby is happy about not having their juice? No, definitely not. So this time the baby says even louder with his little fists, "I want my juice!" And Mama says to the sister, "Could you please go downstairs and get the juice? You don't want to walk away from the stove. Go ahead and go get it." And she says, "Okay," because she always did what her mama asked her to do. She goes over to the basement door. She swings open the door, turns on the lights, click, and she walks down the stairs. And she gets to the bottom, and she crosses across the basement, and just as she reaches her hand for the refrigerator door, the lights go out. And then she hears a voice from the darkness just past the refrigerator. "I am the ghost with one black eye." And the little girl says, "Ah!" And she runs up the stairs and she goes to the kitchen and she says, "Mama, I gotta go take a nap." And she runs upstairs and she throws her bedroom door closed and then she puts 1, 2, 3 blankets over her and she sits. So Mama is left there making pancakes for a practically empty kitchen at this point. And she's in there with the baby. What does the baby not have? Juice. Do you think the baby is happy? Oh no. In fact, the baby is starting to get what we call hangry. The baby takes their little fists and pounds them on the high chair and says, "I want my juice!" And Mama looks around and she says, "I have to do everything around here." So she goes and she swings open the basement door. She turns on the light, click, and she goes down the stairs. She gets down to the bottom and she goes across the basement. And just as Mama is reaching her hand for the refrigerator door, the lights go out. But mamas aren't afraid of the dark, so she's fine. But then the air gets a little bit colder and she hears a voice from the darkness past the refrigerator. "I am the ghost with one black eye." And Mama screams so high and so loud, it looked something like this. Only dogs could hear it. That's how high it was. And she goes running up the stairs and she runs and she says, "I gotta go." And she grabs her purse and she grabs her keys and she gets in her car and she is 3 counties over before she even knows what is happening. So, brother and sister are upstairs. Mama's gone and the baby is the only one left in the kitchen. What does the baby not have? The juice. And in fact, the baby is past hangry. Now the baby is just mad. And that little baby says, "I want my juice. I'll do it myself." And the baby's fat little baby legs kick the high chair tray right off and scooches down on the little diaper bottom, scooches over, kicks open the basement door, too small to reach the light switch, but going down in the darkness anyway, and on that little diaper bottom, bumps all the way down. And as they get down to the bottom of the stairs, they see in the distance the shining beacon of hope that is the basement refrigerator. And the baby scooches on over, and just as the little baby's hands is reaching for the refrigerator door, a chill falls across the room. And one more time from the darkness past the refrigerator, a voice says, "I am the ghost with one black eye." And the little baby says, "I'm gonna give you 2 black eyes if you don't give me my juice." And with a whoosh, the ghost disappeared from the basement, never ever to be heard from again. And that is the ghost with one black eye. I hope you liked it.
Five little pumpkins sitting on a gate. The first one said, "Oh my, it's getting late." The second one said, "There is something in the air." The third one said, "We don't care." The fourth one said, "Let's run and run and run." The fifth one said, "I'm ready for some fun." Ooh, went the wind and out went the lights. 5 little pumpkins rolled out of sight. Now that we've sang it once, let's do it together. Hold up your 5 fingers. Ready? 5 little pumpkins sitting on a gate. The first one said, "Oh my, it's getting late." The second one said, "There is something in the air." The third one said, "We don't care." The fourth one said, "Let's run and run and run." The fifth one said, "I'm ready for some fun." Ooh, went the wind and out went the lights. The 5 little pumpkins rolled out of sight.
I'm back, and I'm here to introduce you to your first guest storyteller. But first, I wanted to break up the spookiness with a couple of, if you will indulge me, horrible spooky puns. So my first one is, what's a skeleton's favorite musical instrument? Any guesses? The trombone. Oh, and play along at home. Every time I tell a pun, I promise you they'll get worse. You can go, "Oh no." All right, on to our storytellers. Becky Stokes has loved stories for as long as she can remember, so it was a surprise to no one when she decided to go to library school. She's worked here at Lexington Main Library since 2017, and she just recently stepped into the role of a youth services librarian. When she isn't hard at work sharing stories with kids, You'll probably find her at home with her husband and cat, making something out of yarn or spinning some yarns of her own. Take it away, Becky.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Miss Angee, for that delightful introduction. My name is Miss Becky, and I'm very excited to share some spookiness with you all tonight. I'd like to begin by inviting you to close your eyes and come with me on a little bit of a journey. We begin on a long, dark road winding through a deep, dark forest. Eventually, our long, dark road narrows into a dark, dusty path. At the end of this dark, dusty path, we find ourselves facing an old, dark house. And in the front of the old, dark house is a single dark door. Beyond the single dark door is a long, dark hallway. And at the end of the long, dark hallway, we find some steep, dark stairs. At the top of the stairs, we find a wide, dark landing. And across the wide, dark landing is a big, dark room. Inside that big, dark room is a slightly less big, dark closet. And inside that closet is a small, dark door. Behind that door is a creaky, dark ladder. At the top of the ladder is a dark, dusty attic. In that attic is a big, dark chest. Inside that big, dark chest is a small, dark box. And inside this small, dark box is one pink jelly bean. Delicious. Thank you all for joining me on that little adventure. Now I'd like to share with you a story by someone else. I'm going to read you the book Annie Was Warned by Jarrett Krosoczka, shared with permission from Penguin Random House. On Halloween night, Annie sneaked out to the old Montgomery mansion. Annie's parents told her not to go. It's got bats, they warned. Bats don't scare me, Annie said. Annie's big sisters warned her to stay away. It's full of creepy spiders, she cautioned. I like spiders, Annie smiled. Annie's friend James nodded. That place is haunted, all right, he said with a shudder. Then he grinned. I dare you to go. Annie was warned. But Annie wasn't scared. She stole down the quiet street. The moon was shining, the wind was howling, the tall trees swayed in the breeze. But Annie wasn't afraid of anything. After all, she was born on Halloween night. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw something black fly by. Was it a bat? But there was only a cat licking its paw. Annie turned the corner and crept across the churchyard. Something tickled the back of her neck. Was it a spider? Annie spun around. It was just the leaves falling from the tree. The mansion loomed large in the night. Annie thought she heard whispers. Was it haunted? Annie took a deep breath and began to climb the stairs. Scram, shoo, stay away, danger, keep out. I'm warning you, whatever you do, do not open this door, or else... Surprise! Happy birthday, Annie! It was the best scare she'd ever had. The end. Thank you so much.
I'm back with another really bad pun. Okay, this one is related to my earrings. Are you ready? Why are ghosts so happy when they're in an elevator? Because it lifts their spirits. I know, I told you they'd get worse. All right, we've got another one. Next up in our show, I would like to introduce an extremely talented lady. However, she could not be here today. So instead, you are going to have the lovely, dulcet British stylings of Miss Juliet telling one of her favorites, the Gunniwolf.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl who lived with her mother next to a deep, dark forest. And her mother would always tell her, "Little girl, whatever you do, never, ever enter that forest. Because if you do, the Gunniwolf might get you." And the little girl always said, "No, Mama, I no go in forest." Well, one day, Mother had to go to town to deal with some business, and she was going to be gone a very long time. So when she left the house, she said, "Little girl, you mind you do not go into that forest. If you do, the Gunniwolf might get you." And then she added, "Better still, if you stay in the house while I'm gone." And the little girl said, "Yes, Mama." The little girl watched her mother leave and go all the way down the path to town. And her mother hadn't been gone more than 5 minutes when that little girl was bored. So she thought, "I'll just go out and sit on the porch." And so she went outside and sat on the porch swing. And as she was swinging out on the porch swing, she spied some white flowers right down by the edge of the forest. There was nothing more that little girl liked to do than pick flowers. And she thought to herself, "I would love some of those flowers. Maybe I'll just pick a few. It'll be all right." So that little girl looked around and crept over to those white flowers by the edge of the forest. And as she began to pick the flowers, she sang her little song. Kumquat kiwa, kumquat kiwa, kumquat kiwa. And as she gathered enough white flowers and she stood up, she noticed a little farther into the forest, there were some beautiful big orange flowers. And she was, "Oh, how I would love some of those orange flowers to go with my white flowers. It's just a little way into the forest. Oh, it'll be okay." And so she looked around and she crept over deeper into that forest. And she began to pick the orange flowers and she sang her song. Kumquat kiwa, kumquat kiwa. And when she was happy with her orange and her white flowers and she stood up, she noticed deeper into one of the deepest parts of the forest, there were some purple flowers. And purple was that little girl's favorite color. And she thought, I'll just get a few. It'll be okay. So that little girl looked around and she crept deeper into the forest, over to those purple flowers. And as she bent down to pick those flowers, she sang, Kum-kwa, kiwa, kum-kwa, kiwa. And when she was happy with her armful of white and orange and purple flowers, and she stood up to turn to go home, suddenly, out of the bushes, jumped the Gunniwolf. And he was the biggest, the scariest, the ugliest big bad wolf you've ever seen. And he circled the little girl. And he said, little girl, what is that goodum, sweetum song you sing? And the little girl said, oh, it's nothing. It's just something I made up. Little girl, you sing me that goodum, sweetum song. And that little girl was scared. So she started to sing for the Gunniwolf. Kum, kwa, ki, wa, kum, kwa, ki, wa. But she noticed as she sang that big old wolf's head began to nod. And his eyes began to close. And he rested his big old hairy wolf snout on his big old hairy wolf paws. And he fell asleep. So that little girl saw her chance. She took a step backwards and she ran. And that Gunniwolf, he woke up and he saw that little girl was gone. He said, and he started to chase after her. Hunkacha, hunkacha, hunkacha. And he caught up with that little girl. And he circled around the little girl. And he said, little girl, why for you move? And the little girl says, I no move. And he said, little girl, you sing me that goodum, sweetum song again. So the little girl sang, Kum kwa kiwa, kum kwa kiwa. And again, the Gunniwolf's head began to nod, and his eyes began to close, and he rested his big wolf snout on his big hairy paws. And once again he fell asleep. And that little girl took a step backwards, and she ran as fast as she could. And that wolf woke up, and he saw she was gone. And he started to chase after her again. Hunkacha, hunkacha, hunkacha. And he caught that little girl again. And he said, little girl, why for you move? And the little girl says, I no move. And the Gunniwolf said, there you sing me that gooder, sweeter song again. So that little girl started to sing that song again. Kum kwa kiwa, kum kwa kiwa, kum kwa kiwa. And that wolf's head began to nod, and his eyes began to close, and he rested his big old wolf snout on his big old hairy paws, and he fell asleep. And that little girl quietly took 2 steps backwards, and then she ran as fast as she ever ran before. Past the orange flowers, that Gunniwolf woke up, and she was gone. Roar! And he started to chase after her. Hunkacha, hunkacha, hunkacha. Pitter-pat, pitter-pat, pitter-pat. She was right near the edge of the forest, and right behind her was a wolf. Hunkacha, hunkacha, hunkacha. Pitter-pat, pitter-pat, pitter-pat. She came out of the forest. She came past those white flowers. Hunkacha, hunkacha, hunkacha. Pitter-pat, pitter-pat, pitter-pat. She reached her porch. She reached her door. She opened the door. She slammed the door, and she locked the door. And then she took 2 steps backwards and she stared at that door. Well, many hours later, her mother came home and she opened the door, and that little girl was still standing behind the door. And her mother says, "Hi, little girl, how was your day?" And the little girl says, "I don't move." And the mother said, "Oh, that's a good little girl." And that little girl never, ever went into the forest again. And that is the story of the Gunniwolf.
All right. I saved my best pun for the last one and our last storyteller. What happens when a ghost blows his nose? He looks at his boogers. Oh, I know. I told you they just evolved in quality. Last but certainly not least, we have Miss Angee. Angee works here in youth services at the Lexington Main Library. She has been a featured storyteller at festivals in Edisto, Walterboro, and at Rose Hill Plantation. But her favorite storytelling memories happened spontaneously while hiking in Honduras one summer. She enjoys telling funny stories and spooky stories, especially in the fall. Hit it, Miss Angee.
My best friend Bonnie and I have been friends since we were 8 years old. Yeah, that's a long time. Who said that? It's not that long. Come on, it's not funny. We really have been best friends for a long time. And one October a few years ago, we decided that we were going to have a girls' weekend getaway. We were just going to take off on the spur of the moment and head to the beach. It was a nice sunny weekend. We thought we'd have fun. So, we got in my Mini Cooper and we headed down to Folly Beach. Oh, it was so much fun. We sang songs. We had a good time. We got to the beach. We walked. We went to the boardwalk. We had pizza. We had a good day. It was a beautiful day. It was almost Halloween, but not too hot and not too cold. It was just right. But it was getting dark and it was getting late and we needed to find a room. So we went to a hotel and they didn't have any rooms available. And we went to another hotel and they didn't have any rooms available. Oh my goodness, there were no rooms available. What were we going to do? Well, Bonnie thought maybe we should go back into Charleston, and I said, no, let's just see if there's any more hotels. And she said, I don't think there's any more hotels. Hey, look at that. There's a hotel right there, and it's on the beach. I had never seen that hotel before. Never, not once. I said, I don't know, Bonnie, that hotel looks a little old and dilapidated and decrepit. She said, oh, quit being silly, Angee. Come on, let's go see if they have any rooms available. And so we went over there, and the closer we got to the hotel, the worse the feeling that I got. It was old, and the paint was peeling, and the door was huge with this great big rusty doorknob. And Bonnie took her hands and she turned the doorknob, and she opened the door. I said, I don't think I want to stay in this hotel. Come on, we'll go into Charleston. And she said, quit being silly, come on. And she dragged me in. We looked, and it looked like something from the 1920s. There were big, old, heavy drapes and a crusty old cobweb desk, heavy carpet, and and nobody at the desk. Bonnie, I don't think this is a good idea. There's a sign and it said, if you want service, ring the bell. And Bonnie went right over to the bell and she started ringing it. Ding, 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 ding. And I said, Bonnie, stop. And she's over there. She's like, it says ring the bell if you want service. And I said, but it's not that much. And she said, don't tell me what to do. And I said, don't do it, stop. And about that time, we looked. And there was a man standing right at the desk. He hadn't been there before. Where did he come from? I don't even know. But I just looked and I was like, hi. And Bonnie said, hi, we were wondering, do you have any rooms available? He said, yes. I have one room available. And he reached his old hand behind him and he grabbed an old skeleton key and he said, room 13 is available. Room 13? No way! I'm not staying in room 13. I'm not superstitious, but I knew room 13 sounded really scary. And there might be bugs. I mean, there could be bugs, you know? Bonnie, we don't want it. Bonnie said, how much is it? He said, $25. Bonnie said, we'll take it. And she put $25 down on the counter. Now let me tell you, have you ever heard the saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But Bonnie was just right on heading down the hall before I knew it. So I had to follow her. She's my best friend. So I followed her to room 13. She stuck that old-timey skeleton key in the lock. She turned it and she opened the door. Now I have to admit, the room didn't look too bad, especially for $25 at the beach. It had 2 nice big beds. There was a bathroom. There was a TV. There was a balcony, and best of all, you could see the ocean. You could hear the waves. It was a nice room. So Bonnie and I, we talked and we giggled and we got ready for bed, and she got in her bed and I got in my bed. I was by the window and we were getting ready to go to sleep. I reached over and turned out the light because Bonnie's kind of a little bit of a scaredy cat. I turned out the light. I said goodnight. She said goodnight. And we were just about to drift off to sleep when we heard a rattly sound. And we heard a voice. And it said, I got you where I want you. And now I'm gonna eat you. I turned on the light. Bonnie, I said, did you hear that? Angee, she said, I heard that. What was it? I don't know. She said, why don't you go see what you can find out? I said, why do I have to go look? She said, because you're older. I said, I am older. I said, I'm only 6 months older than you. She said, but you're older. Go look and see. Lucky for Bonnie, I'm a little bit of a scaredy cat too, and I always travel with a flashlight. So I took my flashlight and I shined it all around the room. I looked under her bed. I looked under my bed. I looked out the balcony. I didn't see anything. I went in the corners. Nothing. I didn't see a thing. Bonnie, I said, maybe that was just our imagination. Yeah, she said it probably was. Maybe somebody next door had their TV on too loud and they're watching a scary movie. That's probably what it is. We laughed at how silly we were. Snuggled back down, she snuggled down, and I reached over and turned out the light. And we were just about to go to sleep when we heard a rattling sound. And a little voice that said, I got you where I want you. And now I'm gonna eat ya. I heard something. I heard something too, she said. Maybe somebody's on the balcony and they're trying to scare us. That's what it is. Yeah, she said. So I took the flashlight and I grabbed Bonnie. I said, "You're coming with me." And I shone the flashlight out on the balcony. I didn't see anything. I looked up, I didn't see nothing. We went in the bathroom, we looked behind the shower curtain. Nothing. Maybe, said Bonnie, maybe somebody was walking along the beach and they were being silly. They were trying to scare somebody and they were just being silly, and that's what we heard. Yeah, I said, because there's nothing in this room. And we took a flying leap and jumped back in our bed. She got in her bed, I got in my bed. We waited and we didn't hear anything. So we turned out the light. We were just about to go to sleep. It was almost midnight when we heard a rattling sound again. We heard the little voice that said, "I gotcha where I want ya, and now I'm gonna eat ya." I turned on the light. "Bunny," I said, "I think it's coming from the closet. Come with me and let's go see." Sure enough, the closet door was open, a tiny little crack, about this much. I shoved my flashlight through the crack. I could see at the bottom of the closet a little hairy toe. I opened the door a little further. There was a hairy leg attached to that hairy toe. I opened the door a little further. And there, sitting in the bottom of the closet, was a cross-legged old man. He had a few wisps of hair on his head and raggedy clothes and dirty legs and feet. And in his lap was a bowl. And as we watched, he took one long, yellow, broken fingernailed hand and he stuck it in the bowl. He rattled it around and he pulled something out and he looked at it and said, "I gotcha where I want ya, and now I'm gonna eat ya." Then he looked. He saw me and Bonnie looking at him. He stuck his hand in the bowl again. And he pulled out an M&M. And he said, "Would you like to have an M&M?" I said, "No, thank you, I'm good." And he said, "I gotcha where I want ya, and now I'm gonna eat ya." I'm going to tell a story called Red, Red Lips and Long Red Fingernails. It's a little bit spookier. Once there was a little girl whose name was Laura, and her parents had just moved to a lovely old house in the country. Now this house was what you might call a fixer-upper, you know? Yes, so it needed a fresh coat of paint. There was a couple of dead trees in the yard, and it was at the end of a long, spooky driveway. But Laura loved this beautiful house in the country, and she had the opportunity to pick any room that she wanted for her own, and she chose the big, wide open attic room. It was very nice, like You could even roller skate up there if you wanted to. It had wooden floors. It was so nice. It had lots of windows. Oh, and it was so comfy. She had it all set up very nicely. Well, they had been in the new house for a couple of weeks when it was fall. You know what? It was about this time of year when it happened. Yes, it was October. There was a crisp chill in the air. And Laura was tired. She'd been out apple picking with her parents, and she was getting ready for bed, and she was so tired, and she told her parents, she said, I think I'm going to go to bed early tonight. I'm a little tired. And her mother and father had said, you have a good time. Good night. We'll see you in the morning. So Laura kissed her mother good night. She kissed her dad good night. And she trotted right on up those stairs to get to her attic bedroom. She jumped in the bed, pulled the covers up, snuggled in with a book and read for a little bit. But she was really tired, so she closed up her book, she laid it on her bedside table, she turned out the lamp, and she started to drift to sleep. But Laura soon heard a sound at the window. It was a scratch sound. Laura sat up. She said, that's weird. Wonder what that was. She got out of bed and she went to the window to have a little peek to see what it was. Do you know what she saw? On the other side of the window, she saw this woman with long, stringy black hair. She had red lips and long red fingernails, and she said, Laura, do you know what I do with these red lips and these long red fingernails? Laura said, no, I don't want to know. No. And she slammed the shades down, drew the blinds, jumped in the bed, and she didn't sleep the rest of the night. She was so scared. The next morning, she drug herself downstairs. She was so tired, she almost fell asleep in her grits. And her mother said, oh my, Laura, what's going on? And Laura said, oh, Laura, last night I said, think about it. And her mother said, Laura, you know you have a big imagination. Come here with me. Your imagination is so big. And Laura's mother took her by the hand and they went outside and she pointed up there and she said, do you see way up there at the top? That's your bedroom. There's no way that anyone can be that high up. There's not a tree or anything. She said, Laura, have you been eating Halloween candy at school? You need to lay off the sugar. You know it's not good for you. Now get yourself on to school and have a good day. And her mother kissed her goodbye. Laura went to school. She was so tired. She made so many mistakes on her math test that day. You really need a good night's sleep to go to school, yeah. Oh, she barely made it through the day. She was just exhausted. Finally, at the end of the day, when it was dinner time, she was sitting at the table and she was about to go to sleep. And her mother and father looked at each other and they smiled and they said, Laura, honey, why don't you head on up to bed and get to bed early? And she said, no. I'll help you with the dishes. And I'll sweep the floor and I will. And her mother said, Laura, quit stalling and go to bed. I love you. Now, good night. So Laura kissed her mother good night. She kissed her father good night. And she climbed up the stairs to her attic bedroom. She looked all around. She didn't see anything. She went to the window and looked out. She didn't see anything. I'm sure it was just my imagination, she said. And she got into bed. And she pulled the covers up. And she turned out the light. She was just about to go to sleep when she heard a scratch sound at the window again. Laura said, what? No. But I have to investigate or I won't get any sleep. And so Laura crept out of the bed She went to the window. Sure enough, she saw, at the other side of the window again, the woman with the long, stringy black hair, with the red, red lips and the long, red fingernails. And that woman said, Laura, do you know what I do with these red, red lips and these long, red fingernails? And Laura said, no, I don't know. I don't want to know. I don't care. No. And she threw the shades down. She slammed it, and she jumped in the bed, and she didn't even turn out the light. No way. She wasn't sleeping that night. No, sirree. No. Well, the next morning, she looked bad. She looked rough. She headed downstairs, and her mother goes, oh, my goodness. Laura, did you know you have on 2 different color shoes? And your shirt is inside outwards. Oh, Mommy, Laura said you wouldn't believe it last night, and she just has long red lips and red fingernails. And her mother said, Laura, that's it. You are going to bed tonight early. You're not watching TV. You must have been watching something scary. Are you reading Goosebumps books? No, ma'am. No more. No more. Now head on over to school. I love you. Call me if you need me. And Laura went to the school bus. Oh, that day was rough. She fell asleep in English class. It was so much. But she made it through. And she came home. And before you knew it, it was dinner time. It was dinner time, and she could barely eat. She was so tired. Her parents said, Laura, honey, why don't you just head on up to bed and go to sleep? Tomorrow's a fresh new day. Get some good sleep, okay? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Laura kissed her mother goodnight. She kissed her father goodnight. And she headed up the stairs to her beautiful attic room. She didn't see anything. She got into the bed and she didn't turn off the light. No. But it wasn't long before she had convinced herself she'd just been silly. It was her imagination. There was nothing there. So she turned off the light and she drifted off to sleep. But it was almost midnight when she was awakened by the sound. Scratch, scratch at her window. Laura sat in her bed. No, I'm not even gonna look. I'm not even gonna look. I'm not even gonna look. This time, the woman with the long, stringy black hair, with the red, red lips and the long red fingernails, took those red fingernails and she began to open the window. Creak, creak, creak. She sashayed through the window. She sat on the windowsill, rocking back and forth. She cackled. Laura, do you know what I do with these red, red lips and these long red fingernails? What? Said Laura. I know you're gonna tell me anyway. What? Just get it over with and tell me. What do you do with your red, red lips and your long red fingernails? What? I thought you would never ask. I do this. And with a silly laugh, she flew out the window. And no one has ever seen her since. And that is the story of the red, red lips and the long red fingernails. Don't you scare your baby brothers and sisters with that story.
Thank you so much for tuning in tonight with us. We hope that you enjoyed the stories. Remember, if you want to hear more tall tales, folk tales, and spooky stories, you can get that and so much more at your local library. Visit us online at lexcolibrary.com or even come in and visit us. Our locations are now open. We wish you a spooky evening and a ghoulish good night. Bye, y'all.